Welcome to the Woden Files Explainer series. Search for the origin of Odin today, and you'll find a nearly universal answer. It claims that Odin was exclusively a cosmic deity, and that his human depictions, as a traveling king or a migrating founder, were purely fictional inventions by later Christian writers trying to rationalize a pagan past. This view rests on two undeniable facts. First, medieval Christian authors did engage in euhemerism, the process of rewriting gods into men to make them safe for a new religion. Second, the primary Norse sources we rely on were written down centuries after the migration period ended. However, this consensus depends on a limiting logical assumption. It requires the past to be sorted into two rigid categories. A figure is either a mythic god or a historical man, with no room for anything between. This binary thinking stops the investigation before it begins. It ignores how ancient societies actually preserved the memory of their founders, often blending leadership and ancestry with sacred myth. We are proposing a different approach, the layered memory model. This is the historical process where a real person, office, or elite title becomes fused with a pre-existing divine name over generations. If applied to Odin, this model suggests the mythology is a compression of several distinct things: the movement of people across the European frontier, the rise of new elite lineages, and the memory of actual dynastic founders. To test this, we must shift our focus away from the Viking Age and look into the chaos of the 4th and 5th centuries. The following minutes will serve as a stress test. We will address the 5 strongest academic arguments used to dismiss the historical Odin and see if the evidence holds up. If the hypothesis survives this source criticism, it suggests the tradition preserves specific historical residue rather than total medieval invention. The first attack is straightforward. Kings throughout history have claimed descent from gods to gain legitimacy. From this perspective, making Odin an ancestor is just a standard move in political propaganda. But this fails to account for the ancestor problem. In the Germanic record, Woden's role is uniquely and persistently political. He isn't just a distant name in the sky. He is consistently remembered as a migrating leader and a physical founder of lineages. A comparative analysis of other Germanic genealogies shows that this pattern is anomalous. Woden anchors territorial sovereignty in a way that standard divine descent does not. The second attack targets the 13th century writer Snorri Sturluson. Critics argue that because his account of Odin's migration is so late, it cannot possibly contain 4th century history. This treats Snorri as if he were trying to be an eyewitness. He wasn't. He was a compiler. We treat his work as a map of claims that must be verified against earlier external data. This is a page from Bede's Ecclesiastical History, written in the 8th century. Long before the Icelandic sagas, Bede already placed Woden at the head of royal lineages in England. The fact that this structural pattern appears in Anglo-Saxon genealogies centuries before Snorri's time proves the concept was already ancient and widely distributed. Snorri did not invent the historical Odin. He organized a persistent, multi-regional tradition that had already been recorded by historians like Bede. The third attack suggests that these different texts are not actually independent, but simply reflecting shared literary borrowing or Christian habits of genealogy. We agree with this methodology. Treating these sources as independent eyewitnesses would be a mistake. Instead, we separate the evidence by medium and transmission path. We look for points where different types of evidence, archaeology, runic inscriptions, and oral tradition overlap. Despite their different origins, these disparate paths converge on the exact same structural pattern: an elite migration-era founder who anchors royal authority. The fourth attack argues that Odin's Eastern origins are simply medieval prestige fiction, a way to link northern kings to the prestigious world of Troy and Asia. We can test this by stripping away that specific Troy packaging. When we apply this filter, we see what remains. What is left is a distinct geographic residue, an eastern-facing movement through specific zones that aligns with real migration period disruptions, entirely independent of the Trojan literary frame. Removing the prestige fiction doesn't destroy the case. It reveals a cross-regional historical memory that the literary framework was merely trying to explain. The fifth attack demands physical proof, the claim that there is no contemporary 4th or 5th century record of an individual named Odin. The investigation prioritizes a plausible historical layer, a ruler, office, or elite identity, rather than the hunt for one specific man. This is the Vindelev Bracteate. It provides a contemporary physical link to the 5th century. The runic inscription translates to, "He is Odin's man." This defines the figure not as a distant mythic god, but as a party in a political, human relationship of patronage and loyalty. By grounding the name inside a secure 5th century political context, this artifact provides a concrete data point that aligns with the layered memory model. The conventional dismissal of the historical Odin fails because it stops at the first sign of medieval invention. It notices the fiction, but stops looking for the facts. Rigorous source criticism doesn't discard the tradition, it refines it. What remains is the bedrock of the myth, a persistent memory of migration-age elite structures and geographic movement stretching back toward the east. The layered model provides a plausible, testable explanation for why Northern Europe remembered its ancestors this way. This is only the beginning of the Woden File. The sources are on WodensMan.com. Follow @WodensMan for the next file. And for the full investigation, watch for the quest for the historical Odin.